Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Financial Management with yours truly, Stephen Hilborn, and this is week 4, where we take a look at horizontal and vertical analysis style questions. So this is going to be the last week of our particular group of learning. After this, so the following week, week 5, will be your first test, of which it'll be worth 20%. As well, at the end of week 4, by Sunday at midnight, you will also have to submit your assignment package, which is located under assignments, to the assignment package submittal link, also located under that same assignments tab. Okay, so that's kind of like the heads up for the next couple weeks. This is the last week of learning, and then next week will be your test, which you will complete through Blackboard, and announcements and all those things will go up about that. So we're going to take a look at horizontal and vertical analysis, as I said here today. And then we're also going to look at some averages in hospitality. I will go over the test as far as some basic questions you might take a look at. The thing about the test is that you will not see any different questions than what you've done in class. So your in-class activities, the format will be exactly the same. Although there may be more critical analysis style questions where I ask you to take a look at something and let me know what it means to you, or can you spot a problem? So first things and how we're going to start this off is we want to talk about different people reading these financial statements. And when I'm playing different roles, I might look for different styles of information or different types of information. So we're going to look at all the various parts of financial statements and how they relate to each other and also on a whole. And we've talked about this when it comes to contributory statements. You look at the individual departments, and then you look at the overall performance of the company. Some of the interested parties that we will take a look at are investors, managers, owners, and creditors. Now, all of these people are looking for a different return on investment, an ROI. And I think I'll go through that. So for management and owners, they want to see if the internal operations are running smoothly. They are worried about staff and customer happiness, whereas a creditor or an investor would not care about that. And they look at revenue and direct costs for ways to do one of two things. And this is the rule for trying to make money in life. There are two things you can do. You can increase your income, or you can decrease your costs. And those are the only two things that you can do. So that's the way that management and owners really look at financial statements, and they try and look and analyze it from that viewpoint, from that scope. If you're a creditor or stockholder, you'll probably change your perspective a little. So stockholders, which are also investors, they are interested in net income. So how much money does the company actually make every year? And if they're not making money, this might not be a sound investment. Even though maybe they are supplying 150 great people with happiness and providing a really needed service to the customers in the community, as a creditor and stockholder, I don't care about that. Whereas a management and owner, they might care about that. So net income, and then also dividends and future growth. So as an investor, I want to make some money off you this year in the form of dividends. And I also want to make sure that if I buy the stock at $10 this year, that it's going to be worth 11 or 12 or 13, that you are in a growing period of your business and not in a contracting period of your business. If I am so if I'm a creditor, a lending institution, a bank, I'm interested in a couple things. First of all, what is your growth of revenue? So are you over the years continually growing your revenue, or is it shrinking? What is your ability to pay off debt? So we'll look at things, and when we get into ratios, we'll look at this a little bit more, but are you able to fund your debt? So if I get to keep $50,000 a year, do I have more than $50,000 worth of current liabilities coming my way that I'm going to have to pay off? And if I have more than that, then I don't have the ability to pay off my debt. Or do I have the ability to pay off long-term debt? If you give me a 20-year mortgage on a property, where am I going to be in 20 years, right? And then also ratios such as debt versus income, current, quick ratio. These are all the things that we look at, price versus earnings, and we'll go through those in the next following couple weeks. Which brings us to a comparative horizontal analysis. And this is of the balance sheet, but of course this can be done on any of the financial statements. And this technique requires at least 2 consecutive periods of information. Here we're looking at a July and then an August. Now it could be month to month, year to year, quarter to quarter, week to week. It doesn't really matter. We're going to look at 2 different things. First of all, the difference in the dollar value. So $8,240 in cash, $6,592 in cash in August. We're going to look at see if the change dollar amount is positive or negative. And then we also want to change that and look at as a percentage. Where did my mouse go? As a percentage, because we want to, percentages are much easier to budget on, to base on. So if our cash went up 10% or down 10% next month, the following month, we might want to follow that same pattern. Keep on that 10% increases in cash. Easier to talk in those terms as opposed to I want to go up $1,200 every month in cash. So this change is further divided by the prior year to find that percentage. So this is the formula here that I need you guys to understand and remember and recognize for the test. It will not be given to you, but it is fairly simple. So what you'll do is you'll take period 2 and subtract period 1. This will equal the dollar amount change. So period 2 minus period 1 equals the amount change here. And that's going to be, now it can be a positive or a negative. If it's a negative, just put a negative sign in front of it or brackets around it. And if it's a positive, just leave it normally. And then what we're going to do is divide this by period 1. Okay, so it looks like, what is it, 1,600 and change or so. So I'm going to take that negative 1,600, that the answer would be here, divide it by 8,240, and that will tell me how much my cash account has gone up or down as a percentage from July to August. And it's best shown by example. So here we are. So we have that cash. So basically period 2 minus period 1 gives us that $1,648. Then we take that $1,648, divide it by 8,240, multiply by 100 to get the actual percentage, or just move the decimal places over 2, and that will tell you that our change is negative 20%. I'm going to move my little guy here. Here we go. And then same thing with credit card receivables. There was an increase of $918, which is a 62% increase from July to August. So we're looking at trends, we're looking at growth. These are the things that we want to do. So we have a bunch of different amounts. And finally, at the end of the total current asset period from July to August, we will see here that we were up $664, which is a 3.84% increase from July to August. So this is the total. So there were some accounts that we had negative change, there were some accounts that we had positive change, but at the end of this 2-month period from July to August, we went up just under 4%. And we should, as owners or managers, know, hey, why did we go down in cash, but why did we go up in cash receivables, or why did we go up in food inventories, things like that. And as I just spoke about, it shows the large change in dollar amounts, the changes in percentages, and can tell you what seems to be favorable or unfavorable over 2 operating periods. And we look at this, you probably look at it week to week, throughout the month, and then month to month throughout the quarters. And at the end of the year, you'll look at a few years as well and say, I want to know how I am progressing in my business. So this will give you an idea as well. So this thing here, we talk about how do you make sure you use your time wisely. So we'll look at these horizontal analysis, but then you got to say, okay, does it require my attention as an owner or manager, or do I already know the reason why these changes are happening? And that's fine. And we can move on to where I can actually spend my time more successfully. And that's what we often forget. We don't have an unlimited amount of management or supervision. You want to work 40 hours to 60 hours a week maximum at making sure that your business is doing well. If you're putting in 110 hours at your job, you're not really making a lot per hour and you're not really enjoying your life. So you have to spend your time wisely and investigate some things. So here we're looking at average room price for the Marriott at the Gravenhurst Wharf, okay? This thing is showing two different sets of information. Average sales price for rooms, and you can see they very rarely go over 100, and they just kind of hover in between that 50 and 100 mark. And you can just kind of give an idea of where the big decreases and increases are. And then also we look at rooms sold. So how many rooms are actually sold? So again, January, February, March, you can kind of draw this line and you can see exactly what happens. And this is not anything crazy. I think for most Muskoka kind of location, this is somewhat normal. So your January, February, March is kind of a slow. As May hits and the end of May and school gets out, you go up in your occupancy rate and the amount of rooms that you are sold. Your prices also go up quite a bit, or a bit, but not a whole lot. And then they dip back down in those lower months. And then maybe they go back up in that December kind of holiday season as well. So as far as what I would like to take a look at, I've identified two things. One, August average sales price. So what happened in August for me to only get in, it looks around like $75 per room. Where in July and September, I was getting $100 per room, and I sold the most rooms in August. This should have been my best month. And because I sold the most rooms, but I sold it for the least I did all year, it probably wasn't. So I have to ask myself, what happened there? Was there just like a typo? Was there a special or a deal that we were running that we probably should have tried to run this in October or November? Did we have a large group, and the large group booked the whole hotel for several weeks, and because they were so large, we just said, okay, we'll give you a great rate. If we have an excuse for it, awesome. Don't need to worry about it anymore. If we don't have a good excuse or a good rationale behind it, then we need to investigate. And then also rooms sold for October, November, and January. These are fantastic, what they call banquet season. So what are we doing there to ensure that we're not selling that many rooms? So therefore, how do we up those numbers? What could we do? Next one is a vertical analysis. So this one only requires a single period of financial data, and we've already kind of been doing it when we are looking at income statements and balance sheets and looking at percentages. So the formula for this one here is cash, well, as an example, is the cash divided by total current assets. Now, what it is doing is that we are looking for a vertical analysis of all of our current assets and the percentages that make up the total current assets. So total current assets, as far as the percentages, will both be 100%. And of that 100%, I want to know how much cash makes up of it, credit card receivables, food inventories, beverage, so on and so forth. Again, that's shown as an example. So here they've gone through, they've figured out that this is obviously 100%. Every item here will be divided by the total current assets to give you an amount. Now, the whys of this, or why we are looking for this types of numbers, is because we want to see the change from one year to the next. So this is not the change increase. So these are the same numbers that we looked at before. And before I said a negative 20% increase from July to August, or negative 20% decrease from July to August, sorry. Here we're looking at, we held 47.69% of our current assets as cash last July. Now we're only holding 36.74% of cash last July. We probably have, as a business, a number where we like to stay, our percentage where we like to stay at. So food inventories. Food inventory is not a fantastic thing to be having a lot of because they are perishable. They don't last for long. If we have 36% of all of our current assets tied up in food, that is money that we can't spend to do other things with or to classify as income. Also, this might result in a lot more wastage than this one did. So as my food and beverage manager or as a general manager, I might go to my food and beverage manager and say, hey, I've seen that we've really been spending and not maybe selling this, not converting this food inventory into sales as much as we should. I want to see some wastage numbers at the end of the month, and I want to see kind of where we could have done better. So this could be a purchasing or inventory issue. That's what I would look at that for. Beverage inventory is not nearly as something you need to worry about because they don't expire or they're not as perishable. And then again, credit card receivables, we don't really have a huge impact on that. They want to pay you cash or they want to pay you by credit card. It really doesn't matter. They're both money in your hand, essentially. And again, a slide kind of just talking exactly about why I'm looking at this. Here's a company number B income statement, and this is what they call your vertical analysis, and they can just show you every year based on the revenue what each line makes up a percentage of. So 55.64% of revenue was used on cost of goods sold. Year 2 is 52. Year 3 is 50. I see a trend. Same with my gross profit. I kept 44%, then 48, now 49. So this is that lovely trend that we're seeing, that every year we manage to lower our costs a little bit. So next year, again, as owner, manager, someone higher up, I'm going to say, hey, of our revenue, I want to see this number now under 50%, and I want to take home more than 50% of our gross profit. That's a very reasonable budget. And that's one of the difficult parts of financials, is not only recording and looking at what you've already done, but trying to come up with something that you are now going to try to achieve. So budgeting. And then again, a few other things, you can look at this and you can say, well, we've also lowered our research expense. We went up in sales and administrative expenses. And you just take a look at all these and wonder, okay, what's going on? How can I change this? At the end of the day, how do I retain the most money possible? So we've looked at both of these now. Most hotels and food and beverage operations use a combination of both of these. Each technique will identify different things for you. So that's why we use both. We want to take a look at them. Income statements are the most useful as far as what you should be comparing from year to year. Because while balance sheets kind of show you what you're worth of a company, income statements show the operations and how well you are at generating revenue and decreasing costs. So a couple averages in the industry. So there's a bunch of them, and we just need to be aware of those. So there are some very generic averages, but then there are also more geographically specific averages, let's say. So common industry averages, food and beverage costs. So for most commercial food operations, it's anywhere from, 28 to 37%. But, 30 to 35 is generally what people think. Same with labor costs. Labor costs are usually in and around 30. The more, how do I say this? The more processed food that you purchase. So fast food, you're a McDonald's. Your food costs will usually be on that higher side, 35 to 40% now, but your labor costs are less because you're not hiring trained chefs, right? You're buying your food more processed. It requires less steps to prepare and get ready. Often it's unbagging it and dropping it in a deep fryer and putting a bun on it, and away you go. Labor costs, because we don't have chefs that are making roux and stews and sauces from scratch, will go down. So the same is true if you kind of flip your style of restaurant. Fine dining, our food cost goes down because we actually purchase raw product, right? And then we have to put in a lot of steps to enable to get that product to where we want to do it. So we'll buy a huge prime rib and cut all of our steaks off of it the way that we like. It takes more time, costs more labor, but that results in usually a much better product. Staff turnover is usually huge. Unfortunately, it's like 30 to 40% for most on average. So it means 30 to 40% of your labor staff have left within 1 year. It's high. but we also hire a lot, and it's a very transitory business as well. So there's few of us that get in a job as a server and say, perfect, I'll be here till 65. It's a stepping stone. We get in there, we say for college or for a few years after, I'm going to make as much money as I can. I'm going to use it as my part-time job or my side hustle. But then eventually, once I settle down, have a family, or have more of a career, I won't be doing this anymore. There's some net income, so industry averages. If you look on StatsCan, it's for restaurants anywhere from like 5 to 15% as far as what the net income percentage is. Average lending rates, merchant fees, these are all things. And then we also have business-specific averages, which I won't go through because these all change quite a bit. But we would know what an average check for food and beverage is at your restaurant just by looking at how many covers come in, customer count, and looking at the revenue for that week or month, and then just dividing and say, okay, on the average day when a customer comes in here, they spend $22. I can now base a lot of kind of budgeting and revenue statements about that. So for next month, if I expect 50 people per day, I expect each one to spend $22. Now I have an idea of how much money I expect to come in. I can use that amount to start saying, okay, 30% will go towards my food and beverage, 30% will go towards my labor, and now I can really start trying to plan out how I'm going to spend my money. Same with room rates and occupancies. Summer times are usually higher, holidays, and then like January, February, October, November, they are lesser occupancy times and the room rates go down. And the only thing that really bumps them up is a lot of the banquet and conference season locally around here. So this is determining averages. So what two numbers do we want to use? So this is a casual restaurant, and there's a bunch of useful averages here to take a look at, should we want. So as an example, if I want to find average check, I look for sales, 65,670, and I look for covers. The covers are right here. So covers. So this one here is showing that we're mostly a breakfast, and then seems like a little bit over lunch, and then a decent sized dinner. We wanted 11,500. We got 11,310. Based on last year, we had 11,780. So we've actually went down 190 based on our budget, and 470 customers did not come in at the same or less than last year. So we're going down a little bit. The average check is sales divided by covers, which is $5.81, which obviously this is not like a realistic style restaurant. Average cover would be $20, $30, I'm sure. You can look at average beverage check. So taking a look at just the beverage amount, of that 65,000, 20,715 was earned through beverages. Divide that by that cover count. On average, everyone comes in and spends $1.83 on beverages. So we can really start breaking down all of these different sets of data. Labor costs, so the average cost per cover. So every time a customer comes in, a manager, we pay them 35 cents of that $5.83 they spent. And the kitchen and the bar and the breakfast. So right now, every time a customer comes in, we are spending $2.71 to service them. We are only making $5.81 per customer. So that is almost 50% of all of our money that we are spending on just ensuring there's enough staffing for the restaurant. And that's not even our food cost or anything else. So when you start thinking about that, and averages being around 30%, we're spending 50%, we either need to start charging more, bring more money in, increase revenue, or we need to start reducing our labor cost, or reducing our kitchen or bar, or any of this other staff cost, decrease cost. Those are the two things that we can do. Much of this is trend analysis. So we're looking for trends. We're looking for things that are happening over 2, 3, 4, and 5 different periods that we can say, hey, I can tell my labor cost every single year is going up. And my net income every single year might be going down because of that. If I don't do something, given another few more years, we might be in a time where we're no longer financially viable. We can no longer stay open. So I can't just say, hey, this isn't good, but then not make any steps to change it. I have to look at the trend analysis. The good trends, I want to say, okay, perfect. What did we do and how did that actually happen? If whatever we did, let's keep doing it. And then the bad trends, I want to say, okay, what are we doing and what seems to be the issue? Maybe I'm just being too generous with my pay. Maybe I'm not cutting as quickly as I should. Maybe I'm using the wrong supplier for food. Maybe I'm giving too good of deals on my room rates. It's got to be something. So you got to look at it and tweak and change. This is trend analysis for a monthly average daily rate of hotels in Canada from 2015. So it is 5 years old, but it came out in 2020, this information. And you will see that it's giving us a few other years. So using trend analysis, you would be able to make an educated guess on upcoming costs and revenues. So could you price your hotel room prices using this graph? What information do you need? So in February, as an example, 2015, it was $130 per room. Then $138, $141, $146, $149. That's a very easy trend. It's going up. It went up $8, then $3, and $5, and $3, and it's going up a little bit every single time. Now, should 2020 been a normal year, I would have assumed we'd be around $155 for that room in February, right? Just maybe $4 or $5, $6 more than what I'm looking at here. 2020, because of the COVID issue, that room probably, I don't even know what it would be, dropped in half. Occupancy rates went through the floor. You know, people still were getting hotel rooms and people are using hotels as places to isolate now, but they are not paying premium because they're not using the services. They're not using the spas and the gyms and the pools and the recreation and the banquet areas and the bar. So therefore, what are you willing to pay? Quite a bit less. So that's one of the major issues with most of our resorts right now and our larger hotels is not necessarily just the fact that we're not getting as much for the actual rooms as we would like, but more so it's also the ripple effect on even when we have those people in our locations, in our accommodations, they're not spending the money in all of those other spots that they usually do. So it's a pretty big impact on us. We're coming out of it. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a great 2021 summer, maybe towards the end of the summer more so. But like wedding seasons, conference seasons are going to go through the roof. People are been backing up their travel. More Canadians have more savings right now than they ever have because they haven't been spending on all of those extras. That once we come out of this, conveniently around the time that you're coming out of graduation and within your first couple years of working, it is going to really be an amazing industry. And I'm not just saying that because I work in it, and I do hope it because I work in it, but I think I'm a betting man, and I'm going to bet some money that a lot of these companies are going to be doing very, very well. And the very last thing that we talk about is consumer price index. Now, the consumer price index, there's a link here for you to go take a look at. I won't go into detail, but basically what happens is that every year inflation happens. So inflation is that the goods that we spend this year, bag of milk, bacon, chicken, gas, paper towel, doesn't matter. There's like all these products that we purchase. Next year will just be more costly. Inflation usually is around 2% a year. Inflation is determined by the consumer price index. So we say, okay, if a gallon of gas costs $1.05 this year, next year it's going to cost $1.10. And that's just what we think. So using this, we get a bunch of different items. We find out what the average is, and that's the inflation rate. So at the very minimum, all of your prices on your menus should probably be going up that amount as well. And all of your room rates and all of the charging for your recreation activities should also go up a fair amount. And this is just the Consumer Price Index 2019 in review. So 2 years ago now. Well, 1 year ago, I guess. So in 2019, all items on average went up 1.9%. All items excluding gasoline, 2.3%. It was a weird year for gasoline. Went down. Internet access services went down 7.2. Traveler accommodation went down 4.8. And then you'll see some vegetables in mortgage and car insurance, meat, food from restaurants. These are all things. So these are the big ones that kind of like level everything out. In Ontario, we went up 1.9%. That was our inflation rate. This is also why yearly raises are important for you, because if you have now, your money does not go as far as it did last year. Let's say you made $50,000 last year. This year you make $50,000, but your money, now your costs have gone up 2%. Your money doesn't buy the same amount of stuff. So as you get into those new jobs, a yearly raise should be something that you get. And if you do a good job and you work hard, you deserve it. And 2% is usually not enough, because 2% is saying, okay, you're willing to pay me the same amount. A 5% raise, a 10% raise now says, you appreciate the work I did last year. Also, you appreciate how much I've grown and how much better I'm at it. So therefore, you'll give me my 2%, but you're also going to give me a few extra percentage points because I'm awesome and I got great schooling from Stephen Hilborn and I can do this or whatever. Okay, so next week we have our test. It will be on Blackboard. I will give you answers to all of the in-class exercises. So I'll post those up for you. It'll be, what do I think here? I'm still creating it. It's, I think, 20 multiple choice true and false questions, and then there's going to be fill in the blank questions. So I will be posting portions of income statements, balance sheets, contributory incomes, vertical, horizontal analysis, those kind of things, portions of what you have done in class, asking you to fill them out, and then maybe asking you some critical answer questions. There will be some long, 1 or 2 long answer questions as well at the end of it. It will be 2 hours long, and it will open up at the start of class. So either 11 a.m. if you're Wednesday or 12 p.m. if you're Monday class. It's really important that you get there on time. You can take it up until the end of class. So if you're 11, you can take it up until 2, but you only get 2 hours. So if you started at 1 o'clock, at 2 o'clock, it's going to shut down, even though you're allowed 2 hours. So you're allowed 2 hours as long as it's within that 3-hour period. So if you're not starting it within 1 hour of starting class, you're not going to have enough time. So please, as soon as it opens up, please complete it, and that will be all you'll need to get it done. So let me show you real quickly a few of what we're going to look at here today. So this is the, which one is this? This is a horizontal analysis. So we're looking at year over year and the changes. So I've kind of set it up where I've given you some amounts, and then you're going to have to find out what the others are. So I'll just do a couple here just to give you an idea. So in year 2019, it was $24,562. We don't know the year for 2020, but we do know that it had a $1,450 change. So what we're going to do is just simply add on this amount. So from year 2019 to 2020, the change is 1,450. I also want to know as a percentage what that means. So what I will do is take the dollar amount change and divide it by the first year, the latest date that we have. So 2019, and this will show me that there has been, oh, sorry, I got to put this as percentage, a 5.9% change from 2019 to 2020. Okay, now all of these are going to be percentages, so feel free to go percentage and give it 2 decimals and just highlight it all and format it nicely. This one here, you can do 2 ways. You can find out what a 2% change of 93.50 is, or you can just say period 2 minus period 1 is $190. And let me just double check that 190 divided by this should be, as a percentage, 2 point, yeah, okay. So I'm just double checking, and that's the great thing about Excel, of course. You can always go and double check your answers. Now here for gross margin, what I'm going to do is add up the total, or do not the total, but add the sales revenue and subtract the cost of sales for both these years. And this is a weird part that so many people get confused. They often just try to add these two together. And if revenue is money in, cost is always money out. Okay, so just because they're beside each other doesn't mean you're going to be adding them both together. Please take a look at that and understand. Sales revenue, people paying you for stuff. You're earning revenue, income. Cost of sales, this is the money it costs me to earn that income. What do I have remaining? This is my gross margin. We've also talked about it saying gross profit. These are interchangeable terms, so I need you to understand that those can be the same. That's the same term. They're synonyms for each other. I'm also going to do the change between the two. So 2020 minus 2019 amount is 1,260, and now I'm going to take 1,260 divided by the first year in this, and it's 8.28%. So it has an 8.28% change from 2019 to 2020. Now you might wonder why. You're like, oh, well, our sales, why is it 8.28? These two do not add up to that. Rather, we're saying because we went up in 1450 in dollar amount and our cost of sales only went up $190, the difference was 1,260. While we only went up 5.90 in our sales, cost of sales did not increase nearly at the same amount, which is great. So we actually ended up saving 8.28% more money. So what you'll do is go through and do the rest. And then when you are done, typically what would happen is I would ask you a couple questions on a test. What do you see? What looks good? What looks bad? Where would you focus your energy next month, next year? This one here is a horizontal analysis as well. So we're looking at a very similar thing, and then also as a vertical component part. So I'll just do the first line just to show you. So again, it's going to be the same one where I'm subtracting the cash components, but then I'm also showing what the change is as a percentage, which is 19. So we have $2,000 more in cash. It's a 19.05% increase, but I also want to know the vertical year 2020 analysis. So what I'm going to do is how much in 2020 did our cash make up of our total current assets? And I'm just going to show that as a percentage. So it was 44.63. So this is quite an easy column. You're just going to go through and divide all of these by the total current assets for that year. Sorry about the formatting, but that's going to be something that you're going to have to get used to doing on your own as well. There we go. All of these you want to show as percentages. So just change to percentage, add 2 decimals, and then away you go. So you can tell that 17% of our total current assets in prepaid, 44.63 is in cash, 28% is in our food inventory. This is a vertical, just 1 year of that particular year 2020. And you can do the rest. Now this one here is a little bit more interesting. So this here is finding out averages per customer and then determining what the average dollar amount change per guest is and the average percentage change per guest. So we have two different, so I think this is like a bakery. So we sell cakes, we sell pastries. What you're going to do here is divide this by the amount of customers to find out per customer how much do they on average spend. So month 1, it's 960 divided by 20 customers. Same thing with your pastries, divided by 20 customers. And then for the averages for month 2, it's this number divided by 22 customers, and same thing, 780 divided by 22. And then we'll do our total sales revenue of 1650 divided by 20 and 1900 divided by 22. All right. So here you can see that on average, the customer spent close to $3 more on the cakes when they bought them, and they spent a little bit more on pastries. And on average, they spent about almost $4 more every time they came in, which is fantastic. So now we're going to do average change per guest. So this is very much like this, but it's kind of a two-step process. So now we're going to say, okay, the average dollar amount change per guest is month 2 minus month 1. And then the percentage will be that change divided by month 1 as a percentage. And I'll just go through and actually do all these. So the $3 or $2.91 is actually a 6% increase from $48 to almost $51. That's 6%. So we're going to do the same thing here. 35 minus 34.50, and you're going to take that number divided by month 1, 2.77, and same thing, dividing it by the first month, and we find out on average every time someone comes in month 2 they spent $86.36, and that is a 4.68% increase in total sales revenue from 1 month to the next. And if we can get that result every single month, that's fantastic, right? 4% every month, 5% every month, that's huge growth. That is very good. Now you're going to take a look at costs. Now I'll tell you some of the costs have gone up, some of them have gone down. So here you'll see it went from 680 to 800. What I need you to go through now is identify what the costs are on average per month, using that 20 and 22 customers still. And then finding the dollar amount change and percentages. And you might see that although some of the prices have gone up, our costs have gone up more than the percentage of our prices, which is not usually a good thing. Usually that means that if we're spending more money on our costs, and even though we're making more revenue, we might not be making more revenue than as much as the cost increased. I hope that makes sense. But go through this. The final number should be, don't know if that's meant to be negative, but take a look. We might be down negative 20 or 36%. Oh God. Get out of there. It might be that. So check that out. Do this assignment. When you feel comfortable, go through and do the actual assignment in the assignment package under assignments, and show up to class and ask me any questions that you might have. I'll know better about the test as well, but it should be fairly similar to everything that you've seen, plus some more critical analysis style questions. Okay? Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. Watch this video, show up to class, stay safe.